Okay, now let's take a look at how we can set up and install MobX and use it to display some information in our app. And we're going to start off fairly simply. And what we need to do first of all is we need to actually install this into our application. So we'll cd into the client app. And what we want to do is say npm install. And we're going to say MobX. And at the same time, we're going to install MobX React Lite. Now the great thing about MobX is it's written in TypeScript, so we can guarantee that we have a TypeScript definition file that comes along with this. It doesn't mean that we get rid of our warnings though, and we've still got the whatever requires appear of React 16.8. Hopefully you won't continue to see these, and some of these packages will have been updated for React 17 by the time you're watching this. So this looks good though, and we've got MobX React Lite 3.1.6 and MobX 6.0.4, and they are available for use. So what we're going to do, inside the client app, inside the source, inside the app folder, we're going to create a new folder, and we're going to call it stores. We're going to store all of our stores in one central place. Now with MobX, we have the concept of using multiple stores. If you come from a Redux background, then you'll be familiar that that just has a single store. But with MobX, we've got multiple. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new class called activitystore.ts. And inside here, what we're going to do is we're going to say export defaults class, and we're going to say activity store. And we're going to have a single property, and it's going to be a bit of a lame example. And we're just going to say a title and say hello from MobX and exclamation mark. And then we'll add a constructor. And then we'll use the make observable. We'll come back and use make auto observable soon, but for now we'll just use the make observable. And then we pass in this keyword to say that this is going to be used, this function is going to be used when this class, that's what this keyword means there. And inside here, we're going to specify the title, and we're going to say that this is an observable, and we get our observable from MobX, as we see here. And what we'll do then is we're going to create a store where we can store all of our stores. And inside the stores folder, I'm going to create a new file, and it's going to be called store.ts. And inside this particular file, what we're going to do is we're going to create an interface, and we're going to call it store. And inside this interface, we're going to specify a property called activity store, and this is going to be of type activity store. Now, we created this as a class, but classes can also be used as types. What we're going to do then is export a const called store, which is going to be of type store, and we're going to set this equal to an object, and we're going to give this object a property and of activity store, and we're going to create a new instance of the activity store inside here. What we also want to do is create a React context for this, and we're going to call it store context. So we're going to say export const store context, and we're going to set this equal to create context, which we get from React. So be careful about where this one is coming from, because there's a few different places where it can come from, but we want the import from React, as we can see here. And what we're going to do is pass in our store into the create context. So this is what's going to be contained in our context, and as we create new stores, we're going to be adding new stores or new instances of these stores into this object, and then that's going to be available in our React context. And what we'll do then is we'll just create a simple React hook that will allow us just to use our stores inside our components. So what we'll do is we'll say export function, and we'll say use store, and what we're going to do is say return, and then we can say use context, and this is also a React hook to use the context that we're creating here, and we're going to specify that we want to use our store context. And then what we need to do is go ahead and set this up in our index.tsx. So what we'll do, we'll open up the index.tsx file. And what we need to do is we want to provide our context to our application. So what we'll do inside the render method here, we'll add the opening left angle brackets and we'll say store context, and we'll get this from our store. And because this is a type of context, we can either consume our context or we can provide our context. And of course, we want to provide the context in this place because we're going to pass it down or make it available to our entire application. So we'll add the closing tag, and let's just bring the app inside the store context, so it's going to act as a child to what we're providing here. And the store context provider takes a value property, and we're going to set this equal to our store, which we get from the store. And make sure we've got both of these brought in successfully. So now we're providing our context to our application, and it has our store inside there. So let's just take a small example, and we'll go to our app.tsx, which is quite a busy component already, but we're going to be cleaning up a lot of this code inside here because all of this local states that we have, we're going to be moving this into our centralized state store. And then from the components that need the state, well, we're going to get it directly from our store rather than passing everything down as we are doing inside this component. So what we'll do for the time being, just at the top, I'll create a bit of space, and what we're going to do is say const activity store equals, and then we can say use store, and just add the closing parenthesis. Now what we're doing here, if we go back and take a look at our store.ts, this is the hook that we're making use of, and this is going to return our store context. So our store context contains an object with an activity store inside. And what we're doing inside our app.tsx is we're destructuring that object because we're only interested in the activity store at this stage. And then what we can do is let's just go down to our JSX inside here. And just inside the container above the dashboard, what we'll do is we'll just say h2, and then what we'll do is say activity store dot title. And if we go and take a look at our application, we can see that we have our title inside there. So we can access our store. However, this is just simply displaying the property directly from our store, and if this property was to change, then we would not see the effects of this inside our component. So what we'll take a look at next is how we can observe this observable from our React components.